To be clear, Caitlin Clark is being fouled at a record rate. Some of them are brutal fouls, and a lot of the refs are looking the other way.
You got people that are resentful towards her, but it's really not about her, guys. It's about what she represents.
Article 7 of the Civil Rights Act, the federal government does have an ability to engage here. Fortunately, it's creating a textbook hostile work environment for Caitlin Clark, and under Title
Caitlin Clark is being systematically dismantled in front of the entire world, and the WNBA is letting it happen. Every game, she is targeted with a level of aggression that goes far beyond basketball. We're talking blindside hits, off-ball shoves, and a relentless physical assault that has turned the court into a war zone. This isn't just a rough welcome to the pros, it's a toxic mix of jealousy, race, and resentment that has boiled over into violence. The league's greatest asset is being treated like its biggest enemy, and the entire scandal is on the verge of becoming a massive civil rights lawsuit.
But despite all that success that she's immediately had, the league has basically looked the other way as she's been targeted on a weekly basis.
Before Caitlin Clark, the WNBA was a niche league, constantly fighting for airtime and respect. After she was drafted, it became a global spectacle overnight. Let's be clear about the numbers, because they are not just impressive, they are completely unprecedented. In her first few months, league-wide app engagement shot up by a staggering 613%. Subscriptions to the WNBA League Pass, the service for watching games, skyrocketed by more than 366%. People weren't just tuning in for a free game on TV, they were pulling out their credit cards and paying to watch many for the very first time in their lives.
Okay, because she's brilliant, right? That's why she's wreaking havoc, because she is so good.
Her jersey became the highest selling of any athlete, in any sport, on the day of its release, beating out legends like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. And she didn't just boost the league as a whole, she single-handedly propped up entire franchises. The Indiana Fever, a team that was once on the brink of obscurity, saw its franchise value triple. Let that sink in. Tripled, because of one rookie. She was more than a player, she was a one-woman economic stimulus package for a league that desperately needed one. Every team she played against saw record attendance. Tickets for Fever games, both home and away, became the hottest in the country. She was a cultural and financial phenomenon the likes of which women's basketball had never seen.
Her attention about Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark has had a seismic impact on the WNBA ever since she first joined. Merchandise sales.
But for every attendance record she broke, a much darker story was unfolding on the court. It started with whispers, then became viral clips, and finally it was confirmed by undeniable statistics. This season, Caitlin Clark has absorbed 17% of all flagrant and hard fouls called in the entire WNBA. One single player is the recipient of nearly a fifth of the league's most aggressive and dangerous hits. To put that in perspective, that number is more than double the next closest player. This isn't just welcome to the league physicality, this is targeting.
Right after she was drafted and heading into her rookie year, A'ja Wilson, who is a three-time MVP of the league, she's won the championship for the Las Vegas Aces, she came out and addressed the attention that Caitlin Clark is getting.
We're not talking about hard-fought battles for the ball under the rim. We're talking about off-ball, blindside shoulder checks when she's not even looking. We're talking about the infamous hip check from Chennedy Carter that sent her flying to the floor, a hit that happened far from the play. We're talking about mid-air collisions where she's clobbered long after the ball has left her hands. It became a clear and disturbing pattern. One analyst put it bluntly, she was one bad flagrant foul away from a career-ending injury. The aggression was so obvious and so consistent that it stopped looking like basketball and started looking like a calculated effort to intimidate, injure, and neutralize her.
It boils her blood when people try and say that it's not about race. And so, unfortunately, it seems like there's a lot of commentary that's being made by players when they're on camera and they know reporters are watching.
While Clark was being treated like a human pinball, the referees and the league office seemed to be looking the other way. The inaction from officials was deafening. Viral videos showed her getting hit, pushed, and fouled 3 or 4 times on a single possession, with not a single whistle blown. The fouls that were called were often just common fouls, rarely escalated to flagrant 1S or 2S, even when replays showed clear intent to harm. Despite the slow-motion replays, the massive public outcry, and the obvious nature of the hits, not a single player has been suspended for their actions against her.
She is taking on harder fouls and at a higher rate than any of her peers. So it turns out that in her rookie season, she absorbed 17% of all flagrant fouls, or hard fouls.
The message sent by the league was chillingly clear: you're on your own. The situation grew so blatant that her own teammate Sophie Cunningham broke the unspoken rule and called out the league publicly, stating flatly, "The star player of the league is not being protected." When your own team feels forced to publicly criticize the league for failing to ensure player safety, you know the problem isn't just a few missed calls, it's a systemic failure. The league, instead of protecting its most valuable asset, was cultivating an environment where she was fair game.
Double the rate of any of her peers. This is not something that you would see occur to any other top star in any other league. And I think a lot of fans are scratching their heads of why the league is allowing this to continue.
This on-court aggression wasn't happening in a vacuum. It was fueled by something much deeper. A tension that was simmering long before Clark ever stepped on a professional court. A'ja Wilson, a 3-time league MVP and one of its most respected veterans, didn't mince words. On a live mic, she brought the subtext into the text saying, "Race is a huge thing, it boils my blood when people say it's not." And with that single comment, the unspoken became spoken. For years, incredibly talented black players had been building the league from the ground up with very little media fanfare or lucrative endorsement money.
There's a lot of jealousy and animosity, and that can be understood, right? If you've been a VP of the league in the past, yet you were unable to achieve the...
Then, a white rookie arrives and instantly becomes the face of the league, reaping the fame, attention, and financial rewards they felt they had earned over many years. The resentment, while perhaps understandable from a human perspective, began manifesting as dangerous on-court retaliation. Clark became a symbol for a much larger, more complex issue, and whether she asked for it or not, she was paying the price for decades of perceived slights with every elbow shove and cheap shot she endured. The debate about media bias and racial dynamics in sports is a valid and important one, but it should be settled with dialogue, not with physical violence on the court.
Unable to achieve the visibility and perhaps the endorsements that Caitlin Clark has received right out of the gate, it shows that it's normal to assume that there would be some degree of resentment. However, the concern is that resentment is then leading to targeting on the court.
This toxic cocktail of targeted aggression, institutional negligence, and racial tension has created a legal time bomb for the WNBA. Legal experts have pointed out that this is a textbook example of what the law calls a hostile work environment under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. To build a case, you don't need a smoking gun of someone shouting slurs in your face. All you need is a pattern of severe or pervasive discriminatory behavior that an employer is aware of and fails to stop. The evidence is overwhelming.
Because Ms. Clark's civil rights are being violated as she is targeted on the court, the basketball court, and no one's protecting her. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
You have the statistical anomaly of the foul rate, which proves she is being treated differently. You have endless video evidence of uncalled or undercalled fouls, and you have public comments from other players that directly introduce race as a factor in the animosity towards her. In the eyes of the law, the WNBA isn't just a sports league. It's an employer with a legal obligation to provide a safe, non-discriminatory workplace. Right now, it's an employer that is allegedly allowing its most high-profile employee to be physically and systematically targeted in a way her peers are not. The Wall Street Journal even ran an article arguing that the league is sitting on a powder keg of a civil rights lawsuit.
Make sure that does not happen. That is the weirdest thing in the world, but it is what it is, and I'm glad that Caitlin has a great head on her shoulders.
The backlash against Clark eventually boiled over from the court into the political arena, culminating in one of the most shocking and controversial decisions in recent sports history. Caitlin Clark was snubbed from the USA Olympic team, The league's #1 ticket seller, the player single-handedly driving its viewership and relevance, was deemed not good enough to represent her country. The official reasons given, a lack of experience with the international ball and rules, were seen by many as flimsy excuses to justify a political decision.
It's basically done for the WNBA what Michael Jordan did for the NBA.
The fallout was immediate and catastrophic for the WNBA's image. The All-Star Game, which should have been a victory lap and a celebration of the league's newfound popularity, saw its ratings nosedive by a staggering 55%. Fans sent a clear, powerful message with their remote controls: if Clark isn't there, we're not watching. The controversy has now escalated beyond the sports world, reaching the halls of power. Senator Jim Banks sent a formal letter to the league's commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, demanding to know why she isn't being protected and what steps are being taken to address the excessive physical targeting. When members of Congress start investigating your foul calls, you're no longer dealing with a sports problem, you're dealing with a full-blown national crisis.
And the amount Caitlin Clark is being fouled compared to any of her peers in the league, or the treatment that she receives compared to any other top stars in any other leagues, there's no comparison to it.
But it wasn't just the politicians who noticed. The strangest part of this whole affair has been the deafening silence from parts of the mainstream sports media. Imagine if an NBA rookie phenom, breaking records and driving ratings, was being physically targeted this way. The coverage would be 24/7. Yet with Clark, many major outlets seemed hesitant to call it what it was. This silence was echoed by some of the most powerful people in the league, the owners.
Instead of protecting its transformative star, the league's leadership ignores the relentless targeting of Miss Clark, treating its greatest asset as if she were a PR headache.
It's about what she represents. Before she ever came along, there were a lot of outstanding basketball players who happened to be black females.
Sheila Johnson, the owner of the Washington Mystics, publicly downplayed Clark's impact, suggesting that other players were more deserving of the spotlight. Think about that. An owner who is directly profiting from the massive surge in revenue that Clark is creating for the entire league is actively working to diminish her public image. It speaks to a bizarre and self-destructive political game being played behind the scenes, where egos and old allegiances seem to matter more than protecting the league's most valuable asset and capitalizing on a historic business opportunity.
Physicality has very obviously ratcheted down. It's been tame.
And so she's facing a hostile work environment. Unfortunately, it appears that it does impact a protected class, her race, as evidenced by quotes by players in the league. And there is a federal element here where the government can intervene, and we've already seen this.
If the owner's politics were strange, the players' silent war against her was undeniable. The clearest evidence of this came from the All-Star voting. Fans, the people who actually buy the tickets and watch the games, voted for Clark in historic numbers. She shattered fan vote records with nearly 1.3 million votes, making her the top vote-getter by a massive margin. But when it came to the player ballot, the story was completely different. Her fellow WNBA players ranked her a mere 9th among guards.
Maybe Caitlin Clark's civil rights are actually being violated. Is her right to a peaceful workplace, a non-hostile work environment, are those rights being violated?
This wasn't a vote based on skill, statistics, or impact. It was a personal statement. It was a quantifiable measure of the resentment held by her peers. They saw the fans' choice and actively voted against it. This internal betrayal validates everything Clark herself has hinted at. In a rare, candid moment, she admitted, "They get away with things against me that they wouldn't do to others." That's not just a feeling, it's a reality confirmed by her own colleagues, who are not only fouling her on the court, but voting against her off it.
Time race has really gotten to this level. Why do you think the referees don't protect her more?
I think that's a great question. And I think the one key that, the 17% of flagrant fouls that she receives versus others, that's just based on calls that have actually been, that the referees actually call.
But what if this isn't just about rogue players and silent referees? The most chilling rumor to emerge from this whole scandal is that the inaction may have been a deliberate top-down directive. Leaked internal chatter has suggested that referees were told to let them play, a coded instruction to swallow their whistles when it came to Clark, allowing the physicality to escalate without official intervention. This transforms the narrative from one of incompetence and negligence to one of potential conspiracy.
But Caitlin Clark doesn't get to play under these circumstances, where these girls are just going out there and playing basketball.
If true, it means the league was not just failing to protect her, it was complicit in the targeting. The question is why? Was it a misguided attempt to toughen her up? Was it a backroom deal to appease veteran players who felt overshadowed? Or was it something even more sinister? Whatever the reason, a direct order to look the other way makes the hostile work environment case almost impossible to defend. It suggests a level of coordinated malice that is far more shocking than just a few missed calls, and it puts the WNBA's leadership directly in the legal and ethical hot seat.
Clark shattered fan vote records with 1.29 million all-star votes, yet ranked only 9th among guards on the player ballot.
So here we are at a bizarre and critical juncture. Caitlin Clark, the woman who was supposed to save the WNBA, is now at the center of a conflict that threatens to tear it apart from the inside. She came to play basketball, but was unwillingly cast in the roles of cash cow, scapegoat, and political symbol. She is driving unprecedented growth and bringing millions of new eyes to the sport, while simultaneously being assaulted on the court and alienated by the very institution that benefits most from her presence. The WNBA has been handed a golden ticket to mainstream relevance, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to become a major player in the world of sports. But the question that hangs heavy in the air is a sobering one. Will the league's internal politics, the simmering resentment, and its shocking failure to protect its greatest asset cause the entire enterprise to collapse under the weight of its own self-sabotage? The whole world is watching, waiting to see if the WNBA will finally step up, or if it will let its brightest star burn out.